What is up, Retromaniacs? My name is Mike. His name is Joe. His name is EP. And we're here to talk about cards. Well, actually, we're here to talk about a movie. But the movie's about cards. So I think it's okay, right?
Yeah.
We've been wanting to turn this into a movie review channel, but this is our best bet right now. We watched the Hobby documentary, and now we are going to give you our unbiased, truthful, honest review. Isn't that right, guys?
We aren't paid by anyone to give them a good review.
No, not at all. So I have a little list of questions here. I figured maybe I'll go down through them and ask you guys your opinion. So question 1, what was your overall impression of the documentary? Joe, get us started.
So I wrote down here, I have my pen and my notes.
Wow.
I wrote down here, you know how some movies, have like Doctor Strangelove or How I Learned About the Bomb, all that. And they have like, maybe they'll have a colon, like the movie name colon, and then whatever. The Hobby. This won't age well. Like, that's what it felt like it should be called. Like, as I'm sitting there, I got to be honest. I enjoyed the production value of it. I enjoyed how it was done. It was very professionally done. I really did enjoy that aspect. It felt like a real documentary, which it is, and it should feel that way, but it actually did. It wasn't like the one that came out last year, I think, which was kind of cheesy and, like rah. Like, this felt like a true documentary, which I did enjoy. But there were some like cringy, like, what are you doing moments that I felt that I feel like we had those thoughts in the moment anyway. So to see people in this almost snapshot in time be completely oblivious to what they're saying out loud and thinking, oh, this is never going to go wrong. This is fantastic and it's always going to age well. Now this little time capsule did not age well, and a lot of people kind of made them look like idiots after the fact, and that's not what they were going for, but it really felt like that's how it ended up being.
EP?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like the calling it the Hobby kind of does a little bit of a disservice. Like, it should be like the Hobby colon during the boom or the COVID boom, something like that, because like you said, I agree. Production values are great. I enjoyed the characters they had on there. The different people. I thought that it was interesting people to talk to, that sort of stuff. But when they're talking about like the prices of certain cards and their collection worth and that sort of stuff, like that stuff was wildly overvalued. And they did the kind of at the very end, they had the towels come up and updated
That's
everybody.
My one
on all these
complaint,
things,
though, EP, is the very end. Like, I felt like they should have added a half hour onto this documentary. It was about 90 minutes or so, and done more. I know it would have been harder to do, but I think unless you're going to do a part 2, I think you're doing a little disservice not stretching out what actually happened after this documentary's interviews, which went from, we should mention, October of 2021 to March of 2022. Like, maybe April of 2022, maybe from that point on, you should have some more information instead of just a couple of cutaway like little text bars. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think you said the word disservice. I don't want to step on our other talking points, but I feel like the way they did it also is kind of a disservice to the Hobby, calling it the Hobby and then only covering the stuff they covered as well. It seems like they kind of skim the surface. Documentary can't go all in on everything, but I feel like a true documentary that would cover the entire Hobby, I would love to see that, like that, and a lot more aspects than what they covered, I think.
I agree with you guys. It was shot well and stuff, but like Joe, my description is what you said, a snapshot in time. Like, this is a small snippet of where this was back during the boom. And I mean, it will represent itself as what it is, but that's really all it is. Like, this is what the peak pandemonium of the Hobby was. And this will always be looked at as that one little slice in time. But like, I agree with you, EP, is really not representative of the Hobby in general. But yeah, snapshot into time is my impression of it, because that's really what it was. It just gave us a little snippet of what we all remember a couple of years ago. It's really weird watching it now, knowing how everything's changed.
Right. Like I was finding myself on like Terapeak looking up card prices of some of the cards they looked at just to kind of give me some bearings of what some of these cards are worth. One point I do want to make quickly before we move on is even the stuff beyond the March of 2022 that they did cover, like some of the bad parts of the hobby. They mentioned like the stuff at Targets and people beating each other up for cards. It felt like almost like the beginning credits of a Marvel movie where they're not really talking about anything. They're just kind of showing some stuff. They didn't really dive into those things.
Yeah.
Like they didn't want to show the seedy parts of the hobby. But I mean, I think that stuff needed to be talked about a lot more. The tone of it was super like rah. This is so great, and everyone's having such a great time during this boom period. But there were also during that boom period some pretty shitty things happening in the hobby that I don't think you can just kind of gloss over in an opening montage.
Yeah.
But I also had one other passing thought, just quickly. As soon when it first started up, somebody, I saw somebody in a mask, and I thought to myself, "Oh, this is going to be all about the boom," and that immediate thought. So I just wonder what's 100 years from now, what people are going to think when they watch this documentary, and then they go check the price, like, "Whoa, what happened? What happened to this hobby space?" So yeah.
All right. So, what were your impression of the characters, the people that were the focus of the documentary?
EP, you can go first on this one. I have some thoughts.
Well, I like that one of my things I did is I wrote down the names of a bunch of people I think we should have on the show, like the guy from Burbank and the guy from Fanatics is no longer there. The guy from Heritage Auctions, the eBay guy. I just feel like there's a lot of potential people that I would like to hear more of their stuff. Peter from SGC, and then I thought
I'd really like to hear from Peter right about now, but that's
definitely. So, but I thought they chose some interesting people there to interview. And the Pokemon and a couple of the other people that were running businesses in the hobby. I thought it was an interesting selection of people with some interesting takes.
Joe?
Guys, do you remember back during the pandemic when everyone watched The Tiger King? Do you remember that? I know Mike and I did. EP, did you watch it as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Marathon.
And I remember talking about it in our group, going, there's no one to root for here. Everyone's terrible. Like the only person you can root for are the Tigers. Like that's it. I kind of felt that way with this documentary. The only person I liked, and Mike and I texted on the side because you hadn't watched it yet, and I think you'll agree with me, Mike, the only person that we liked was Danny, the Pokemon person. Like they were the only redeeming character to me, and I even wrote they're the only collector in this whole thing. Like other people may collect, but they're collecting to make money. Like I just like all of them seemed like I would not want to hang out or listen to these people more than I am in this 90-minute documentary, right? Like I'm interested in some of their stories, like Josh Luber, that whole thing. I would love to know what happened there, like why he got booted out. Like I want to know more, but I don't want to talk to him about it. Like I just want to hear about it. Him opening up like boxes of Prism from Luca's rookie year. Can you imagine? He had a stack of empty boxes. Could you imagine how much money he put into that? Like the couple who owned, what was it, Black Jade? I wrote it down somewhere, but they were the ones who she had the Luca Black Gold out of 5, and it was valued at $750,000. And she pulled the LaMelo and all that. I didn't like them at all. I know you like them, EP, but I got to say those sports card nonsense guys.
I think they were all interesting characters. I don't know if I would. I
because you listened to their podcast, so I wasn't 100% sure.
Well, no, I'm talking about all the characters, but those two guys I listened to. I mean, they have some bad takes, but they also get some interesting guests on, and they talk about stuff in the hobby, which I try to listen to. So the
one thing, and before I move on to before Mike lets us know what he thinks about these characters, the one thing I will say is, I said it on the first podcast, I'm a Bill Simmons stan, right? I love Bill Simmons. How did he get it so wrong to give them money to talk about sports cards on the Ringer Podcast Network is what I want to know. I did not find those guys knowledgeable, entertaining. The one guy was so annoyingly Boston. Hold on, EP. Let me finish complaining about these guys. Yeah. So annoyingly Boston. like Larry Bird, the greatest player of all time kind of thing. And I think he's kind of serious. And then the other guy, is he, because you listen to them, EP, is he like an avatar for the dumb collector, like the person who's like just getting into the hobby, or has he improved his knowledge of the hobby since this was recorded? Because he didn't know what he was talking about the whole time. It felt like he was being explained to what the hobby is. Is he an avatar for new collectors? Is that his shtick?
He's not an avatar for when they first started. Like he was not a fan of sports, like not a fan of sports cards, but he did not collect any sports cards at all. And I'm pretty sure when they did this, like they were just starting this new podcast. I'm pretty sure when it was recorded. Right now, they are vastly different people, different characters on their show now compared to what they are in this. I mean, I got to tell you, when I was like, there's no way these are the same guys that are on the show. Like they're very different.
Okay, that's good to hear at least.
They're way more comfortable because they
super bad.
Yeah, they seem very almost uncomfortable. And I was like I said, I was texting with you guys. It seemed like the one guy, the mic guy, he made it sound like they didn't use enough of his stuff on the show, or didn't use a lot of his stuff. But it seemed like
3/4 of the movie was him.
They were like the main characters.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what? I don't understand. But
did he want the 90 minutes all to himself? Because I would have been tapping out at that point.
The thing is, he is way more brash in Boston, actually on the show, than he is was on these in this.
That's why I'm drinking a Dunkies. I'm having a Dunkin' Donuts in honor of that guy because he's so Boston.
So it was that really kind of shocked me because they are very different now compared to how they appear on that show.
I'm glad to hear they're different, but like that's the thing. I don't listen to them, so I don't want to make like a general judgment because again, this was a snapshot in time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like this was what the hobby was. This is what people were talking about, all the investor flipper things back at the time. So like we only got to see the clips of them during that time doing the stuff everybody was doing, which isn't really our thing. It's not really the thing of the viewers of this channel. So like I don't think a lot of people, you know, watching us talk about this really enjoyed that part of it either. But like again, it was just that little point in time, and you know, I'm glad to know that they're not really necessarily like that now.
Right.
Like a lot of those people have disappeared. Like, I'm sorry, like I don't know Josh Luber, but like, dude, I was just like, this is the face of Fanatics Collectibles. Okay, somebody had an idea at one point in time. Clearly it didn't work out. So maybe what I was seeing there, like I don't know him personally, like it was like kind of fun watching him open just pack like while he's talking. That was kind of funny, but at the same time, I feel like he represents everything I don't love about the hobby, and everything that a lot of the people that are crying, oh, the hobby is dying. Like, no, those people are no longer have their role because like things aren't ridiculously expensive. So like he didn't play well. Super Duper Danny, like I loved her. Like she was the only true
redeeming
collector in there. And like I related to her, even though she was Pokemon and we're not Pokemon, but like that collector in her, she had been doing this before the boom, like even
she
the
almost
one
300,000
subscribers. And like I can understand why, because she came off as completely genuine to me. She's the only one that I felt was genuine and like I could relate to as a character, because her love of what she did was before the boom and after the boom. I'm sure she's still the same way, and like she just wanted to be able to buy product to be able to rip on her channel, and it was becoming difficult, and we can all relate to that. And like even the one card she sent in too that came back to 9, and she's like, if this would have been a 10, it would have been like but you could tell she would have gotten rid of that card in a heartbeat. She's like, that's life-changing money, which we use that term all the time on here. So like, yeah, she was playing the game that people were playing, but she wasn't playing it like them. She was like very relatable, and I really enjoyed her in the movie.
I wrote down, I like Danny talking about PSA 9 versus life-changing PSA 10 money. I said she gets it when she said the grader might have been having a bad day.
Exactly.
I mean, and like that's what made her so relatable. I will say, you know, we always joke around like, what if we had a time machine? What point in time would we go back to you know, tell our younger selves, hey, buy Tom Brady rookie cards now, quick? I would have gone back in time made a stop at Danny and said, "Hey, that that empty box of Pokemon that you say you can get $500 on
Don't
eBay,
open
please
it.
sell it." Like, no, sell it.
Oh.
It was an empty box. It was just the
Oh,
empty
Yeah, it was
box.
empty. Yeah, it was empty. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
it's empty. Just sell it. Like the tote that her parents brought of
Yeah.
all the empty box she had opened.
Yeah.
That was probably like $5,000 worth of just empty boxes.
That was totally relatable too, though, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because,
Oh,
you
yes.
know,
Yeah.
So
we all
relatable.
went back and found our old stuff, and she was waiting
Yes.
for her parents to bring it. I love that part.
Yes. That was
Okay,
perfect.
you guys, I mean, this really wasn't as big a deal to me, but you guys were talking a little bit in our text about the music. So, what were your thoughts on the music, Joe?
EP, you said it best. So I'll let you go first on that.
There was just an odd moment where it seemed like the music was really, really sad. Like, for what's going on the screen. I'm like, I don't understand why I'm not supposed to. I don't want to feel sad about what's happening on the screen right now. I don't
Right.
understand why you're trying to me. Like, what that's the directing choice was interesting. The sound director choice was interesting there.
Right. Like when you said it that way, because I'm just listening to it as the music, and EP and I watched the show called The Leftovers on HBO, and the music was very similar, and it was appropriate for The Leftovers for a
Yeah.
documentary trying to talk about like how great the hobby was and how crazy this time in our lives were. It had really, really sad, like emo music. And I'm like, am I supposed to watch this and like cut myself? What is
Yeah.
happening right now? It was an odd choice by the director. As much as we think
Yeah.
the production of the actual documentary was really good,
Mhm.
some changes could have been made just
Right.
aesthetically that I think would have made a lot more sense.
Maybe he was doing that knowing that like all this changed. So
That's
he-
Yeah,
you know
it was
what? That's
something
not a
like
bad point.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
At the very end, you're like, oh god,
Prepare
we gotta
yourself,
change.
guys, because
Right.
it's gonna get dark.
Yeah, they're all so happy about the value of the cards. Maybe we should put some somber music in there to
Right.
counteract.
Like, oh no, you don't know what's coming.
All right. Was there anything in this documentary that changed your opinion about anything or anybody in watching it?
I don't know about changing my. So I didn't know a lot about the people. So oddly for me, I know that when I watch documentaries like this, I go in kind of trying to root for the people, and we kind of talked about the different characters. But like, I thought to myself, the three of us, were actually we don't like to pat ourselves in the back. We call ourselves the Three Stooges. We see these people spending tons of money on cards and turning down tons of money on cards. That Luca Black Gold, what was it, 750,000? She said, "No, I'm going to keep holding it." The
Right.
LaMelo Ball, $30,000 from Panini One. I looked on eBay; you can get it for less than $1,500 now. What it did is it reinforced for me that the people who acted like they were so smart about the hobby are actually really dumb. They were
Mhm.
not smart about the hobby at all. Because if you were, she goes, "Oh yeah, someone said I should sell this Luca for $750,000 and buy real estate, but that's not a market I know." You don't need to know real estate. You need to know you're getting $750,000 for a piece of cardboard that is going to be worth probably a tenth of that in a year or two. And you can say, well, you're watching it 2 years later, you know. I went through our text threads, no joke, when this documentary, and I looked at the time frame, we were calling this then. We were then the avatar for it was Thanos rookie card, right? Like we
Yeah.
kept joking about this Thanos rookie card, and we're like, Mike, I think you said it in the text thread from 2 years ago. I'm selling everything now.
Mhm.
There is no reason not to sell everything now because we saw it coming. That's why when you'll see people like Jeff Wilson, who, knock on wood, thankfully was not in this documentary very much and not actually interviewed at all for it.
Mhm.
When you see investors and this Black Jade, whatever investing corporation, the two women there, when you see investors being so bad at investments, you think to
Mhm.
yourself, what in the world is going on? Why in the world are we listening to these people?
Well, as soon as they were start talking about that Luca thing, like the Luca card, is like they're not in business anymore. Like that
Yeah.
was my immediate thought. Like there's no way a company like that was thinking like that and working like that. There's no way that I'm guessing. Well, I shouldn't say no way, but like I doubt they adapted. Like they're just that manner of thinking was just. I mean, it was all wrapped up in the way things were at that time. So yeah.
did like I felt like every time I saw somebody in the documentary talk about holding something was like being punched in the gut. It was like, oh no, like, and there were quite a few different references of people there, like talking about holding something. Is like, we do have hindsight now, obviously, but we were talking about the bubble from the time we got back into this. Like from the very start of getting back into this, it was like, I'm going to get rid of my cards before the bubble bursts. Like I've seen it before. I had a shop. I went through a huge period in the early 90s. It wasn't exactly the same, but like you're talking about peaks and valleys. I've ridden a peak and gone to the valley and gone back up to lower peaks and way back down into a lower valley. Like anybody who had been around was telling you the same thing. Enjoy this while it lasts. It won't last because it can't. It was ridiculous the amount of money that was being made and being spent. And you had the guy there that was like comparing everything, the financial advisor guy, and like talking about how people were coming into the market from like stocks and stuff like that and investing. And you knew they were just going to take advantage of this and get out. I'm sure those people got out, but the card people who had the expensive cards didn't get out, and they weren't able to realize that I have a $750,000 card. I should sell it. Yes. Like, don't hold it and hope for it to be more. Like, how anybody could have a card that is supposed to have that value and not think I need to sell it? Like, blows my mind. That's like a level that I can't even comprehend how anybody could think, oh, well, maybe it'll go up. And the same woman, when she was opening the Panini One, like those first two boxes were terrible. And it's just like, God. Oh, so nothing. Terrible. And it's just like
the one was $30. She opened a $1,500 box of cards and it was $30. And everyone was like, oh, no big deal. And then I'm like, you're opening up, that was $3,000. You literally just flushed down the toilet. Like, we talk about prices now and they're still they haven't come back down, but to be so blasé about it, like that's what made me be cringy. Like, I hope they're holding the bag. I hope they're holding the bag on some of these cards. I was finding myself rooting against these people very, very quickly. The guy from Sports Card Nonsense who took his cards out of the bank vault and brought him out to the car and was showing them. And I'm like, hopefully, if you're actually smart, you sold a lot of those cards, even though you said you would sell, what do you say, the house, the dog, then the cards or whatever it was. Yeah. Like, first off, super douchey comment. But secondly, I'm looking at those cards and I'm thinking, you say there's $400,000 worth of cards there. What are those worth now? I hope for your sake, not for me, because I hope you didn't, but I hope for your sake that you sold them and actually made some money. Because if not, why do you have a podcast about sports cards?
Yeah, I wondered if he still had those cards. That was one of my thoughts too. Mike, back to your point about the peaks and valleys. During the time of the peaks, the previous peaks, have you ever used the word asset class when talking about cards?
No, that was a new one when I got back into it. Yeah.
There was a lot of asset class.
I was like, oh, God, I was thinking of you every time I heard them referred to an asset class too. Yeah. Okay. Were there any moments that really stood out for you? Like, was there a moment that just made you go, oh my?
I actually have a moment written down. I said, I wonder how EP feels about this. It was when they kept dropping packs of junk wax on the table to do the visual.
The last one, I was going to say, the last one comes down and lands like this and then bounces up and then hits again. It's like, oh, what are they doing?
I wrote, did EP's heart hurt when they throw junk wax on table is a literal note I have. That one stood out to me for that reason. Yeah. But I think just the thing that stood out to me the most was just the hubris of 99% of the people on the documentary. It was just like straight up hubris to the point where it almost, if it wasn't done in such a good production value way, would have turned me off to the whole thing. And maybe that is petty, maybe it's not, but it was just like, I don't like to watch for something specifically to root against people. Like, I end up rooting against people because that's just my nature. But like that, it was almost instantaneous. So that's kind of what stuck out. But a specific moment was the whole interaction between the woman who had the Luca and the Josh Luber thing at the card show, where he's like, oh, she had it marked for 15,000 when PSA 10s were going for $70 or something like that. And then now it's worth 750 and I don't want to buy it. And then she's like, someone came and offered me 750 for it. And like all this. So like that stood out, and I will not forget that moment. Like that was the biggest one for me, and how like everyone was kind of just overall just kind of douchey in that moment. Like the Luber people kind of talking, well, I told you to buy it. No, you didn't. Well, yeah. Like that whole interaction just really, really turned me off.
Yeah, that's as much as I said I wanted to get some of these people on the podcast. Like those conversations feel so contrived kind of right now, right? Like it just feels like that's just kind of gross. For me, there were three kind of ish moments. Like the one of the biggest one for me was when Danny was at that card show and found opened a $25,000 box of Pokemon cards. Like this, I mean, again, for as much as she is a collector, like that was a moment that was the kind of thing you saw so much during the COVID times, and just a wild amount of money, and then to open it, on a live stream, it feels like very much a COVID thing. The second thing is,
but like we as collectors, before you move on to that, we're like us as collectors, if someone said to us, "Hey Joe, you want to open up a box of 2,000 playoff contenders on a live stream," even as just a collector, I'd be all over that. I'm like, absolutely, yes. I would.
And the thing with her was you could see how excited she was to do it. And like, it wasn't because, oh, it's going to be so valuable. Like it's because of something rare and it is valuable, but like you could feel her excitement and like having it when she's walking back with that in her hands. And like, even when she pulls the one card out of it, like I felt like it was more of a pure reaction than like watching Backyard Breaks when they pull something. Right. Go ahead.
That they pulled the two best shinies they could pull out of it too. Like I was like just excited about that and knowing, obviously knowledgeable about the product. Then the Burbank warehouse, like I've always wanted to see what that looked like, and it would live up to expectations of just like rows and rows and shelves of boxes of like wild, just absolutely wild. And then the PWCC vault, as you know, we kind of mentioned, I think I
have some comments about that.
So the vault, and then the security they had in there too at the PWCC, showing the cameras, all that sort of stuff, I thought was enlightening to for in that regard.
Let me make a point about the PWCC vault that you definitely won't cover in yours, Mike. Don't worry. My man, the guy who owned PWCC, who's like out of the hobby now, which they featured him a lot more than I thought they would, walking around with an open cup of coffee.
Oh, that was annoying.
Around all the cards.
I was like, oh my God, that was annoying.
My man, if you turn and someone bumps into you and that coffee goes into those sorting trays with all those thousands and thousands of dollars worth of cards, what are you doing? Like,
it's just douchey to walk around with a coffee cup during it too. Come put the coffee down and
one quick note on that as well. Him pushing shut the vault and closing it, like he probably hasn't done that in years, right? Like
that's Propstein did it too. Propstein did it too, and I'm like, oh, the director definitely told them to do that.
My moments, like I loved when Danny got the cards from her parents. Like, like as a collector, like I can relate to that, and that feeling of like can't wait to see what is in there. Like I did really relate to that, and that really stood out. And on the negative side was the whole Josh Luber with Peyton Manning and the being interviewed, and the card the joke of, oh, here, I'll replace it with 2,000 of my cards. Like, I don't know if they're really 2,000, but like, I don't know. It was like, okay, you really think you're a big deal, and maybe you are, I don't know, but that was just gross. Like, even if it was just a joke, it was gross. I just didn't enjoy that much.
The Josh Luber Peyton Manning thing was the single cringiest thing I have seen in a long time. That was so weird. And you could see Peyton Manning being like, this is not entertaining. Can I get off this effing stage right now? Like, he's like calling in Omaha so he can get the hell out of there, because he's like, this is so strange to me. Yeah, it was just, that's a good point, Mike.
Yeah, 100%. Like I thought it was actually going to be something interesting, and then when it was the card of him, was like, oh, what's happening?
By the way, another cringy moment. I really didn't particularly care for the Burbank guy. Maybe I'm just a curmudgeon, but like wearing the Card Father shirt and then saying, I guess people refer to me as the Card Father. You're wearing a shirt that says it. Of course, people are going to refer to you as that. And like, I just like something there was just something off-putting about him. Like I'm a very big deal. I own Burbank, and you should call me the Card Father. And then he's talking to his daughter, like, "Oh, people are interviewing me now, sweetie. I got to go." Like, it just that whole interaction was kind of off-putting to me too.
Again, it seemed there were a couple of moments that felt really contrived, like they were really like maybe the people recording it were either waiting or trying to get some of these types of things to, or I would hate to think that they told them, hey, do this kind of thing.
What did he say that the other person there said? No, you can't say that.
Dad, you can't be talking about that. There must have been like something legal, like maybe someone broke in and there was like a legal issue that he couldn't talk about. That was my guess.
I like that point. Okay, well, wrap things up here. What are your final thoughts? Any final thoughts you have? Anything you didn't get out? And I want to know, we're going to rate this movie. We'll give the final thoughts first, but while you're thinking about that, we're going to rate this movie like you grade a card. We're going to grade it from 1 to 10, like we're grading for PSA, how we would grade this movie. So Joe, get us going here.
All right, so just some final quick hits. They showed a Michael Jordan PSA 10 at the very beginning with the diamond hologram on it, meaning it's like one of the best you can get. It had a clear white blemish on the one corner. I really don't know how that was a PSA 10. That bothered me. eBay doing $4 billion in 1 year in cards, selling 2 cards a second. Someone referred to it as the perfect storm. I think that makes a lot of sense. The target shooting, all the seedy part of the hobby I mentioned before. Here's one point I do want to make as well. Sports card nonsense doing the hobby 101. I actually did like that a little bit, like the little timeline thing. He did say collectors are the lifeblood of the hobby, and I completely agree. But in this boom time, no, they weren't. Like yes, the end user needed to be a collector, but all of the spots along the way, selling a big card to another person who's trying to sell a big card, to sell to another person who's trying to sell a big card. I don't think the collector was the lifeblood of that. It was just a shell game.
Well, I think they're referring to the collector as the people selling the high dollar cards, like
which is not right, which is not accurate at all.
I think we have a different definition of what a collector was compared to their version back then.
Someone referring to Pokemon bigger than Marvel. Apparently, it's not as big as Lorcana, though, right, Jeff Wilson? Josh Luber not using sleeves on his slabs. That was kind of annoying. Like, dude, you're just throwing cards around without sleeves on. Referring to Abraham Lincoln rookie card. It's not just shut up. There's no such thing as an Abraham Lincoln rookie card. Our guy, Justin, Spidey Hits made the doc. He was in the background talking about Marvel cards on a TV, which I thought was kind of fun. I want to know more about Black Jaded Wolf and selling that Luka card. Did they sell it? Do they still have it? Danny was the only collector in the video. The LaMelo downtown was apparently $30,000. It's not that anymore. Sports card nonsense. Talking about the entertainment value of opening up cards. That is a good point. You know, it's not just about the dollars and cents. It's about the actual entertainment and having fun with your friends and opening up cards. I think that's pretty much it. I have a lot more, but we're running out of time.
Okay, EB, your final thoughts on it.
I kind of mentioned this earlier on, but I feel like 100 years from now, this hobby that we love, if somebody picks up this documentary and watches The Hobby, which is supposed to represent us, this does not represent the hobby, like pretty much in almost any way. It represents this tiny window, as you guys said, in the boom, and that's really disappointing. I really hope, and it's unfortunate that it is called The Hobby, that we can't have another one's called The Hobby that actually kind of focuses on
the actual hobby.
Actual hobbyists, like actual people collecting stuff and you know that sort of stuff. And I feel like that's a bit of a disappointment. And so I guess that's where I'm at. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting people. And again, but I agree that I feel like I really wish it was more representative of the hobby that we know than just that small portion that we all went through it during the boom.
Yeah, I was bored to tears watching this. I'll be brutally honest with you. I didn't enjoy any of it. It was boring. It felt like work to me. Joe made me watch it. And I mean, all the stuff depicted here, except for the Danny stuff, is all crap we don't care about. It's all the stuff we made fun of in text messages and everything back when it was going on. Whole bunch of people that felt like they were really big deals because they had cards that were worth all this money. And like a lot of these people have gone and disappeared from the hobby. Like just not necessarily these people per se, but that type of person. Like there are fewer and fewer of them. You know, the cards don't sell for anywhere near the same amount of money. It's just, I did not enjoy it at all. And I had a hard time watching it because as it just went on, seeing the same thing about the values of the cards and how much money it is and how great these people are because they had the card. Like there was no particular skill involved with being great investor, like you said, Joe. Like you just randomly hit a card out of box that was worth a whole lot of money, or you sent it to PSA and they said it was a 10 and now it's worth like 10 times more than it was worth before. It was easy for these people to make money back then. Like it was hard to lose
or not
money.
make money if you didn't sell those damn
or
things.
not make money. Yeah, but like there was no skill involved. They weren't great investors. They weren't smart. They were just people that were part of this at the time, and it just grossed me out. So, moment of truth. What are you going to grade this movie, Joe Day?
So I was originally going to grade it a PSA 6, which would be excellent to mint. But then I remembered as I'm reading my notes, the PWCC lended money based on the value of cards. So that drops me down to a PSA 5. Excellent.
Okay. EP, your final grade on this movie.
So I had I wasn't say this is the greatest thing ever. I'm going to rewatch it 100 times or anything like that. And I have to admit that 26 minutes in, I checked to see how much longer I had to watch. As much as I enjoyed, parts of it and the production value and everything, I was checking 26 minutes in to see how much longer is this going to be. And so I have rules that I don't grade stuff on a scale of 10 with a 7. I can't give it a 7. And typically when I give grades, I try to do out of 4 because I feel like that's the best.
This is out of 10.
This is out of 10. I'm giving it a 6.
Okay.
A PSA 6, which would be excellent mint.
Extra mint, according to some people on eBay.
Extra mint.
Okay. And I'm going to give it a 3 because I did not like anything about this movie. And I cursed Joe Day for making me watch this movie to talk about it on this video today.
PSA 3, that would be very good though. So there you go.
Imagine that. PSA, ever the
make me feel good about that 3.
Yes, all right. Well, if anybody has watched this movie, let us know. Give us your grade in the comments.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that most of our viewers have not watched it.
Well, they're lucky they don't have to
watch it.
Yeah,
they don't have to now.
This is
it.
So if you haven't watched it and you can't give it a grade, let us know. Are you going to watch it, or has our little discussion here today led you in the right direction to completely avoid this piece? No offense to the filmmakers. This is not a criticism of the actual movie. It's just the people and the content of the movie that it's a 3.
It's no Thor Love and Thunder.
No Thor Love and Thunder. We know that. All right, guys. That was fun. And I'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
See you, boys.
See ya.